Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. So I wanted to kind of just have a conversation about something that I'm currently dealing with, and that is, how do I have a relationship with the Most High without the Bible, right? Without the Bible, without reading it, how can I have a genuine relationship with the Most High? I have been reading the Bible for 2 years straight. It's been over 2 years actually. February 5th of 2023 is when I started in Genesis. And I've been reading and rereading and rereading and rereading. And I've gotten to a point now where I'm not just reading, I've been studying as well. But I've gotten to the point where now I'm wrestling and I'm fighting, because the more I read, the more I'm like, this is a contradiction. This does not line up. This does not match. This is the complete opposite of what I was told growing up in Christianity. And the more I read, the more there's revelation of things. I'm not going to get too deep into any of that because I feel like, you know, people need to come to that conclusion on their own. And there's been other conclusions that I have come to when it comes to the New Testament, right? But we're not going to get into all of that. But I'm fighting every day, fighting. The more I read, the more I'm just like, I can't. Because I read and it's like, well, clearly there's something missing here. And we know this. We know that things have been taken out. We know that things have been changed. But I'll give you an example. I'm currently reading the book of Ezekiel. I can't tell you how many times I read Ezekiel. And it jumps from the 12th year of exile to the 20, I think, 7th year of exile. Then it goes back to the 12th year, and it's in the 12th year for a long time. Then it goes to the 25th year. And I'm just like, you can't get me to believe that the Most High did not talk to Ezekiel for 15 years, that he didn't have him to write down something for 15 years. You can't get me to believe that. You can't. Because from, I believe it's chapter 30, it's chapter 30 something through 48. The rest of Ezekiel is just the 12th year. So I'm like, well, what happened after the 12th year? What happened between the 12th year and the 25th year and the 27th year? What happened? There was no prophecies. There was none while they were in exile. I don't believe that. It's that type of thing. That type of thing, as I'm reading, it's just like, you can't get me to believe that. I look at those type of things, but I don't think that a lot of people pay attention to that. No, I pay attention. Nope, I pay attention to how much time has passed. I pay attention to the fact that, okay, this much time has passed. What happened in between this time? What happened? Because we skip from one thing to the next. And it's so much that I'm just like, it's frustrating. It is absolutely frustrating reading the Bible and knowing that there is so much information that is missing. So much that is missing. But then if you like, you know, you talk to a Christian and it's just like, it's all hunky dory, right? Because if you look at the New Testament, there's not really chunks of time missing. There's not. So they were all written in like a little window, which I also find, suspicious. But like I say, we're not going to get too much into that. But I want to say specifically for the Old Testament, because that is where I have spent the better part of these 2 years, is reading the Old Testament and studying and looking up the Hebrew and looking up just different types of things. And it's gotten to a point where I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated and I'm irritated. And it's something I have found is that as long as I'm in prayer, And as long as I am fasting, you know, I'm good, right? I'm good. As long as I'm in prayer, speaking to the Most High constantly, multiple times a day, and I'm fasting, I am good. And so I had a thought as I was talking to a friend of mine, and I, told him, I was like, our ancestors didn't have Bibles. They didn't have the written word. They didn't have access to it. They just heard the word, right? And, because obviously during those times, they were living it out. So there was nothing for them to read. They were actively living it out. So they had a relationship with the Most High. Now, granted, okay, they were not obedient. We're not going to gloss over that. No, they were not obedient. Um, but still, they had a relationship with him. They knew him, and there was nothing written down for them. So I'm like, well, okay, yes, we have Bibles today. We have access to the Bibles today, but we don't have access to all of the things that were happening during that time, whereas they lived it, right? So I'm like, well, how do I have a relationship with Yahuwah and not read the Bible? Because I know what it says. I also know what it doesn't say. So, how do I have this relationship? By being in prayer and fasting. Because honestly, when I'm in prayer and fasting is when I feel the most close to Him, because He really does speak to me in my dreams, especially if I've been fasting over a long period of time. My dreams, listen, it's it's on a whole nother level. I am a vivid dreamer. I've always been a vivid dreamer ever since I was a child. And now that I understand dreams and how they work, now I can't interpret, okay? I can have somewhat of an understanding, I can't interpret. But now that I understand how dreams work and um, can kind of, I guess, discern when it is from the Most High or if it's from the enemy or it's just, my own subconscious thoughts um, playing out, I feel like I'm in a better place that way. Reading how dreams were in the Bible and something that I have on the front of each of my dream journals is the it's from Job 33:14 through 18. For Elohim does speak once or twice, though one does not notice it, in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, while slumbering on a bed, when he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction, to turn man from his deed and conceal pride from man. He keeps back his being from the pit and his life from passing away by the sword. So that scripture to me it means a lot because that's how Yahuwah spoke to people. Think of the prophets. They always had a vision, right? A night vision, which is a dream. That's how Yahuwah would speak to people. Granted, no, I would not have known this if I had not read the word. But do I think I could have a relationship with Yahuwah without ever actually having to read the Bible? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that people can still have a relationship with Yahuwah without ever having read the Bible. Our ancestors did. They knew him. He was in their presence. He was amongst them. So it's like, I'm not saying that, people should not read their Bible. You actually absolutely should because, it will dispel everything that you've learned in Christianity or Catholicism or whatever religion you were in. You definitely should read it and know what it says for yourself. Highly recommend that you do that. But for me, I, you know, I think I'm going to take a little break. I am. Now, I will say this. My son, I'm having him read the Bible. And so, of course, I'm still going to be reading it every day, but more so it's for him to not only know what it says, but also to help him read better. The Bible is highly, highly above his reading level. He is 8. Okay. Um, but I'm still gonna read it every day, but just reading it with him, so he knows what it says and he understands and everything like that, and also to read better. But as far as personal study and quiet time, mine is going to look more so like prayer, just prayer and fasting, and in constant communication with the Most High, because that's honestly all I have the capacity for. So something else that I have mentioned in a previous video was about how I have um, been struggling as far as like what I can and can't do, but it's more so focused on what I can't do to make sure that I'm not in opposition of the Most High. And it's made me feel very restricted. And that's not how Yahuwah is. That is not how he is. He's not restrictive. So let me be more specific. On Shabbat, sometimes I feel like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? I know what I'm not supposed to do. You know, and I'm not supposed to work, which is fine because I work 6 days a week. I'm tired, right? Cool with that. Not supposed to cook. Great. I prepare my food ahead of time. Okay. Not supposed to um, buy or sell. Great, because I'm buying and selling every other day of the week. Okay. As far as selling, I do Uber Eats on top of my full time job. So, yeah, okay, cool. It's a day of rest, resting from all the other things that I do during the week. Okay, so I know what I'm not supposed to do, but what am I supposed to do? What are some things I can do, right? You know, um, are there certain things that I can and can't read? Are there certain things I can and can't watch? Are there certain things I can and can't listen to? Now, granted, I don't listen to secular music. It's been about 2, maybe 3 years since I've listened to secular music. So obviously, I wouldn't listen to that. But it's like, what am I supposed to do on Shabbat, right? Um, I observe the feast days. Okay, love the feast days. Actually, they're probably that the feast days are something that my son and I look forward to every single year. All the feast days. My son's favorite is the Feast of Tabernacles. He loves sleeping in the tent. Okay, so um, I'm cool with all those things. That's not a problem. But it's like I've been so restrictive on things that I can and cannot do aside from Shabbat. Just things like in life. I felt like not being a part of the world was more so just staying at home and being away from everybody. Now, something else to know is that I'm an introvert. So I didn't go anywhere anyway. But it's just like, what are some things that I can do that's not in opposition to the Most High, as far as like, being in the world and not doing as the nations do, or not doing as the people in the land where we are scattered, what they're doing. But there's things that I can that's okay to do. Like I take my son to urban air. Okay, I take him to cosmic air. We go to the museums. We go to uh, the movies. Rarely, okay, because movies nowadays everything is demonic. It Have y'all seen the previews for that new Minions movie? It's witchcraft and demons and monsters. No, we ain't doing that. But besides that, I take him to like Chuck E. Cheese, or different places like that. But that's more so like things that he and I do together. But as far as just like me when he's not with me, you know, um, things I could do with myself. I'm not the bar type. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do those types of things. So it's like, okay, I like bookstores. I go to a bookstore. I don't buy any books, but I go to a bookstore. I love going to a library. But it's like I want to get more so out of that, more out of my comfort zone. But it's just, it's, I'm really wrestling and struggling and fighting. I am. Uh, and what's interesting is I think a lot of us really are. And it's just like, it's felt so restrictive. But the thing is, that's not how Yahuwah is. He's not restrictive. He's not like just, this is it. That's it. Nothing else. But it's when we're doing these things and we're trying to figure out, like, what's in opposition to him, what would not be right, that's where discernment comes in. That's also where the Ruach comes in, because the Ruach will tell you what you should and should not do. Like, you will get a feeling, okay? You will get a feeling like, that's probably not something I should be doing, right? So I'm just trying to figure out, like, what this looks like without reading the word. Like, how does this look in practice and in my everyday life and in my actions? What does this look like? How does this work? You know, put the Bible aside. Now, granted, I would not know a lot of things I know without having read it and studying, but it's like now, okay, let's put this away. Now it's just me and the Most High. Like, what we doing? Right? So, I don't know, y'all. I'm just, and then the other thing is like with teaching my son, okay? So we've read the law. Okay, we read the law, and even before we read the law, I've kind of like gone over it with him, like bits and pieces for his age, things that would pertain to him, and he understands that. He gets that. Cool, great. But now that I'm really wrestling and trying to figure things out, I'm just like, how am I also supposed to teach my son? I mean, I guess I could lead by example and be like, it's okay to wrestle. It's okay to fight. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to, it's okay, right? It's okay. But because we grew up and we're told that it was not okay, that we shouldn't question, that we should just go with the okey doke, no, nope, we ain't doing it no more. We're not. We're not going. We're not falling for the okey doke. We're not following the okey doke. No, we're not doing that. But now it's kind of like, well, what can I do? I'm still struggling with the fact of Yahuwah and Yahusha. And there's just something there that because we've been told that Jesus is the Son of God, and then you come into the truth, Yahusha is the son of Yahuwah. Either way, y'all are still worshiping Jesus or Yahusha. That's not who you should be worshiping. You should be worshiping the Most High, because he said there is no other besides him, period. So that's something that I understood off top. Like, coming out of Christianity, I was just like, we've been worshiping this Jesus, and no, we're supposed to worship the Father. He's the only one we're supposed to worship. He's the only one we're supposed to hold like on a pedestal. He's the only one that we're supposed to be praying to. It's just so much that I'm just unlearning and learning at the same time. And it's overwhelming. It's very overwhelming. And I get anxious, I will say. I do get anxious because it's too much all at one time. So I want to take a step back. And that was also why I put a pause on my Psalms series, because I wasn't, one, I wasn't feeling it anymore. And two, I didn't want to be a hypocrite and be reading it at the same time while I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I'm not feeling this. Like, not even that I'm just not feeling it, but it's not what I want to do right now. I don't want to do something and my whole heart not be in it, especially if it's not something that the Most High wants me to continue doing. When He says stop, I stop. I've been working on listening with my ears. I am an introvert, and a lot of times that looks like me being quiet. But when it comes to talking to the Most High, your girl be running at the mouth. Okay? like word vomit, just be running my mouth. And sometimes I just need quiet, just sit there and listen, and that's it. That's it. That's all. Just don't say nothing. Having a relationship with the Most High without the Bible, I want to know what that looks like, right? Like I really want to know what does that look like, because on this past week I've been unintentionally on a fast. And that's kind of how my fasting works. It's kind of just like he just puts me in a fast. And there's no preparation. There's none. No preparation for the fast, no planning. Like you know how most people say, "Oh, I fast like 4 times a year or 3 times a month." No. Yahuwah picks me up and places me in a fast. And it's just like, okay, it's me and you. What's up? What are we doing? And so a lot of times when I'm fasting, I do read the word, but that's not helpful. I've learned that when I'm fasting, reading the Bible is not helpful to me. What's helpful is me having a conversation with the Most High, or journaling, writing down thoughts, writing down, what I'm hearing Him say to me, writing it down, and that's it. Not reading the word, prayer and fasting. That's what my ancestors did, prayed and fasted. Again, they did not have a Bible. And that's the thing that I'm just trying to figure out, like, we're so stuck on this Bible. But had our ancestors did their due diligence in passing down the customs of Yahuwah, the word, the commands, the statutes of Yahuwah through word of mouth like he told them to, I don't think any of us would really be reading this Bible, because for what? We're reading a book that's been handed to us, that's been through so many hands over thousands and thousands of years. It's incomplete. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of stuff in there that's been falsified, tampered with, and changed to fit a narrative that these people wanted to push out to everybody. So that's where I'm at now. What is my relationship like with the Most High without the Bible? And on top of that, finding things that are okay for me to do and not be so restrictive on and thinking about what I can't do. What can you do, Moniqua? What are some things that you like doing that is not in opposition to the Most High? And just figuring those things out. But if you're feeling the way that I'm feeling and you can relate, leave a comment down below and tell me how you're faring during all of this, because y'all, it's a lot. It is a lot. And so I'm just, yeah, I'm listening to my dreams. You know, well, I'm not even gonna say I'm listening to them. I am discerning my dreams, because there are some dreams that are kind of just like pretty straightforward. You know, that was the whole reason I was in the book of Ezekiel, because of a dream that I had, um, specifically about Ezekiel chapter 4, like literally about Ezekiel chapter 4. And that was why I was reading it, but I probably should have just stopped there. See, that's the thing too. When I get these visions, these dreams about a particular book in the Bible, I end up reading like the whole book, when it's like, that's not what he said to do. That's not what he said to do. Mm-mm. Just that chapter and a little paragraph, because it wasn't even all of chapter 4. It was only a little piece of it. So that's all I have for y'all.